All right, hey, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 5 o'clock 01. We'll go ahead and get started here, and just a few things here before we jump into some information and some business. The first thing is this: I've been informed. If you didn't know, we do have. If you have kids and the kids want to go somewhere else, we do have in the preschool room, we have a few preschoolers, but they have said if there's any elementary age kids here that want to go back and hang out with the kids, they are welcome to do that. So just know that is out there. So I just wanted to start out. First of all, thank you for being here tonight. We're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're a part of this. And I wanted to just start out with just kind of the purpose for tonight. Just so you know, so this is a congregational meeting. This is a meeting for our church people. Obviously. Saw many of our neighbors here tonight. We want you to know you're welcome. You are welcome here. Okay, so me saying this is for our congregation doesn't mean what are you doing here? Get out of here. You're welcome here. We want you here, and so we're glad that you're here. We do meet here every Sunday at 9 and 10:30 and 12, and you're always welcome then. But I just wanted to begin with the purpose for tonight's meeting. The purpose for tonight's meeting is to share information. Okay, it's to share information, but it's also to gain valuable feedback. We want to have an opportunity to hear from you. We want to gain that valuable feedback from our church family first and foremost. And just so you know where we're at in this process, and you'll kind of see where we're at in this process as we go on, but there's a very clear way to do these things. And so you community members that are here, we want you to know that the next step in this process would be a meeting with our neighbors. And so if you're here tonight going, well, we just found out about the meeting. We didn't know you were having a meeting. Well, that's because we shared it with our church. And then the next step would be in the next 30 days or so to gather our community and to hear from you and to share what we're going to share tonight. So some of you are just getting a little head start on that, and that's okay. But we want you to know that there was no part of this that was done under, hey, let's do a congregational meeting and not tell anybody about it. If that's the case, we would have announced it every Sunday morning or send out emails and stuff like that. So just kind of know that's where we're at. And so we want to gain that valuable feedback from our church family about potential plans to develop a portion of this 91-acre property to serve those in our community who are most affected by a lack of stable and affordable housing. And again, the purpose is to share the information. So the first part of this time together is really gonna be us just sharing information with you. And then we'll have some time to get some feedback. So we just ask that you would just kind of take it in, right? Just kind of listen, kind of maybe start writing down what are some of the questions that I might have. We're going to present some historical context, right? So what in the world got us to this place? Some theological context. We believe that God is involved here, and we want to share what the reasoning is there, why this matters. And then we do have some plans that we will be presenting for what this could look like, okay? Could look like. In other words, we have some visual plans, but we've also got some answers to logistically what it could look like. And the reason that we did that is because we needed to have a starting point, right? We don't want to just show up at a time like this and go, hey, we're kind of thinking about doing something. What do you guys think? And you go, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you thinking about doing? And so, wanted to have a starting point. So we'll share that with you. Then following that, we'll have a question and answer time where, and I will say this: we're going to give priority tonight to our church family, okay? Because that's what this meeting is for. In the question and answer time, we're not going to be here all evening. All right, we're gonna. Oh, every time I say in a board meeting, we're going to be done by 9, we finish by 10. So we're not going to be here all night. How about I just say that? But I will say this. At some point, if we say we need to cut this off, okay, that doesn't mean the conversation stops, okay? You understand that? Doesn't mean the conversation stops, all right? This church here is going to be here. All right, I've got an office right back there. I'm here most days during the week. People stop in, and most of the time, I've got some time to chat with you. All right, so please know my office is open. My phone is open. Would love to continue the conversation. So here's our posture tonight. Okay, all right. Our posture is this: we're having a conversation. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're having a conversation. We're not presenting any plans to say, all right, yay or nay, we doing this or not. Okay, we're just having a conversation. Your pastors and your church board, we've done some legwork, especially this guy right here, done a lot of legwork leading up to this. But we're not here to say, here are our plans. Okay, but we want to provide a starting point. So we, personally, and I'm not trying to make this a we and you thing, we're approaching this with curiosity, okay? When I say that, I just mean, I had people this morning go, so how do you think it's going to go tonight? I said, I have no idea. Who do you think is going to be there? I don't know. I literally, we're approaching this with a curious mindset, okay? I think this world could really use more of a curious mindset. We tend to make assumptions with this much information. And we take this much information and we go from here all the way over to here. It would do us well to enter into conversations with some curiosity. So that's what we're trying to do tonight. We ask that you might do the same. We're here to share, but we're also here to listen. And we consider each question that's asked we consider that a data point, okay? Like we consider that as information, right? Even a question that's asked can be really, really valuable information that we can learn from. Because if you're asking that question, you're not the only one, okay? So we'll share some information. And from here, we'll consider what our next steps are, okay? We have no idea what our next steps are going to be right here as we sit here, okay? And so would you just consider a similar posture? Let's have a conversation tonight, and let's learn from one another and see where the Lord might be leading us, okay?
Let me pray for us. God, make us people who are seeking after you. First and foremost, may that be what forms our opinions. May we in the room who call ourselves Christian be after your heart and make that the lens through which we see the world. Guide us, give us wisdom. Help us to trust you, and may, no matter what comes from all of this, may your name be glorified, and may your love be evident in us. Amen. My name's Kyle. I am the executive pastor here at Lawrence First Church. This is Robbie, the guy who just talked to you for 12 minutes without introducing himself. He is the senior pastor here at Lawrence First Church, and we'll be primarily the ones talking with you tonight, but we are calling this a family meeting on purpose. You know, we'll have an opportunity, like you said, to hear from others, but we just kind of want to be postured in it. Like there's snacks in the back of the room. If you got to get up and take a bathroom break or go grab some more snacks or whatever, it's a family meeting. We're here together, okay? So that's kind of our expectation. We do have a couple special guests with us tonight who might be able later on to help us answer some questions, just depending on what we end up talking about. So Jill Jalker is here. Jill, will you give us a wave? She is the assistant county administrator, and she's been able to help us answer some questions. Misty, I don't think she's here yet, but Misty Bosch Hastings will be here, and she works for the city as a homeless outreach coordinator, and she's been able to help us answer some questions. Aaron Thacker is here. He's part of our church family as well. He also sits on the board for Family Promise, and he's been able to help us answer some questions. And so we're glad that they are here, and those extra voices in the room that can help us as we think together, as we dream together, as we wonder together, as we're curious together. As Robbie said, is our posture. That's the plan for tonight, is to hear first from us and then from you, and then we'll try to answer as best we can. Also, just so you know, we had to try to, when doing a meeting like this, we had to try to walk the line between how much do we prepare for the meeting, so we actually have something that we could say, maybe it could look like this, but you don't want to over-prepare, right? Because then everybody's like, well, it looks like you already did the work, why are you asking me, right? And so you got to kind of find that middle spot, which I don't know if we did it or not. We might not have prepared enough, or we might have over-prepared. We're doing our best to just try to work through it, try to figure it out. And so Robbie and I we're pastors. Both of us feel pretty comfortable up here with a Bible in our hand preaching. I don't know about you. This is less comfortable for me. Maybe just like I will admit that this is not necessarily my area of expertise, which is why we have sought outside experts to help us think. So just so you know where we're coming from, and we've just kind of been laying out that posture. So. To get us started on all of that, see, we never use this clicker thing on Sunday morning, but did anybody navigate away from Planning Center, or from Pro Presenter? Because that would be the only way that this would work. No? No? Okay, well then somebody back there be my clicker for me. And head to that next slide for us. And Robbie's just going to kind of help lay out a brief history.
Yeah, just real briefly, kind of how we got to this place. How we got to this place, started 115 years ago, but I won't go through all that. Just over 25 years ago, the church board, the leadership at that time, through the leading of the Holy Spirit, made the decision to move from downtown Lawrence on Massachusetts Street to this 91 acres that our building currently resides on. And we've got, if it's ready, is that map ready back there? So you can see up here, this is our acreage here. It makes kind of an L shape here between North 1000 Road here out front, and then Haskell, or 1055 there, to the east. And so you can see we've got oh my goodness, you're gonna ask me. Yes, okay. You all laughing, right? Okay, so our church building that we're in right now is right there, and so you can see just the size of the property there. But the church board made the decision to move out here, and this next slide here is the master plan. So this was the This was the master plan when we moved out here. You can see that that there were plans for all kinds of things that would be opportunities to minister to the community. So you can see one of those, that little green one there, you don't even know what I'm about to say, do you, is the building that we're in now. And then there were plans for a larger sanctuary at some point, plans for sports fields, just plans for all kinds of things. Because the church, the leadership was saying, hey, we don't have this land. God has not blessed us with this land by accident. Okay, it's not by accident. We're not to just kind of sit on this land. And so over the years, though, the property has been used. We've used it for various events, various outreach opportunities, different ways that we can serve our local community. And so in no way would I ever say that, we have failed. Like, we have failed. We've not, done what God wanted us to do. But there's constantly and consistently been this stirring that we have 91 acres, and we have it for a reason. And we believe when God blesses us with a resource, we are not to, and those of you who have been in here consistently on Sunday mornings, I do this thing where I say when God blesses us, we don't hold our blessings like this. We hold them like this, right? And we say, Lord, how would you use these things for your glory? What are you leading us to do? So in the past couple of years, and actually we got a couple more slides here. I'll do this real quickly. This next one here, these are the plans that were filed with the county when we first built. And you can see that the plans were filed and approved by the county, were initially approved for future opportunities, future building opportunities. And then next slide, if you would, including this tract 1 and 2 up here, the little L shape that connects there with Haskell. Was approved by the county in the original plans for building. So we've gotten some questions like, are you even allowed to do this? And the answer is yes. Yes, because someone had the foresight to say, at some point the Lord may call us to do something with this land. And so that wasn't a mic drop or anything like that, okay? I'm just saying, that may answer some of the questions that may come up later. So fast forward, last couple of years, our church leadership began wrestling with how the Lord might be calling us to steward our land resources for his glory. And stewardship involves asking the question, what has the Lord blessed us with? And then how can we leverage that for his glory? We began considering the needs of the local community, because it's not just about us, okay? It's what are the needs around us? What are the resources at our disposal? And this potential plan we're going to share tonight for stable housing, a stable housing option that could meet real needs, began to unfold. So that's kind of historically where we've been. Just so you know, our church board and our staff, we've been having conversations for, I don't know, the last 6-9 months, I would say, of just jump in.
Our first conversation was 1 year ago, but then that was an early dreaming phase, just wondering, and then that moved us to a board conversation that was in May.
Gotcha. Okay. That's the other thing. If you don't know me, I'm terrible with when things happened. I'll say they happened 2 years ago, and my wife is like, that was 10 years ago. So, sorry. But yeah, so I say that not to say, again, wow, they've been working on this and haven't told anybody. I say that to say this isn't something we just put together in 30 days and went, let's throw this up on a wall and see if it sticks, okay? All right, so Kyle, why don't you talk to us a little bit about kind of your story here?
Yeah, I'm gonna stand up because if you know me, I'm doing everything I can not to just like shake my leg like crazy. So I'm not a sitter. A couple years ago, so we get calls here at the church often. Most churches, or maybe every church I've ever been a part of on staff, have gotten calls. We call them benevolence calls. Somebody calls looking for some help, rent, looking for somebody to help them keep their electricity on for the month or whatever. And we have a budget that comes from the generous people here at the church that is set aside specifically to, if we are at a place where we can help, we do. We try to help people out. We believe that's part of our calling here. And we got a call, and this guy was just like, if you could help me out for a night, I've got my wife, I've got 2 kids, and we need a place to stay for the night. Just like one night in a motel would really help me. And something about that call just made me go, you know what? I'll do that, but I'd like to come and meet with you. And he said, okay. Like, I mean, he couldn't tell me no because I was about to pay for a night in a motel, right? And so so I went to meet with him, and we ended up paying for a few nights in a cheap motel for him and his family to stay in, and got to know his family, his wife, his kids. His kids were close to the same age as my own kids, and we kind of got involved in their life. We ended up advocating for them and helping them transition out of homelessness and into transitional housing called Hope House in Ottawa. And I feel like I learned a lot about a side of that whole thing that I'd never really been a part of before, and just like some of the things that it takes to be successful even when you move into a housing situation like that. Like, you can't just say, okay, here's a roof over your head, good luck, and then 3 months later, 6 months later, just expect it, to be good. Like, I mean, it takes work, especially if you're a family that's coming out of generational trauma or generational poverty. It takes work to come alongside. But we've been able to help this one family move into permanent housing and walk alongside their kids who are still a part of this church, and the family's still part of this church. And it's a story that's still being told. It's not over, but it's been a redemptive story. And there have been bumps in the road. It's been a lot of difficult stuff, a lot of really frustrating stuff, but it's been a redemptive story. And it began to open our eyes a little bit to being on that side of helping people through situations like that. In Matthew 25, Jesus is talking. He's telling a story of the future. And he says, "The king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me.' Then these righteous ones will reply, 'Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you?' The king will say, 'I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me.'" Now that's the upside. Here's the downside. "Then the king will turn to those on the left and say, 'Away with you, cursed ones, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his demons. For I was hungry, and you didn't feed me. I was thirsty, and you didn't give me a drink. I was a stranger, and you didn't invite me into your home. I was naked and you didn't give me clothing. I was sick and in prison and you didn't visit me. Then they will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and didn't help you? And he will answer, I tell you the truth, when you refused to help the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you are refusing to help me. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God for this word, as difficult as it may be to hear. It seems like our calling as Christians and as a church is pretty clear. Now, the way forward isn't always clear. Knowing exactly how we're going to live out that calling is not always clear. But the calling to clothe the naked and feed the hungry and care for those who don't have, right? The calling is very clear in Scripture for what our purpose is. And you'll notice that Jesus, he doesn't identify there in that passage of Scripture with the ones doing the work. Jesus doesn't say, hey, you who were feeding people and you who were clothing people, that's just like me. Jesus identifies with the one who was naked, the one who was hungry, the one who was sick or in prison. And he said, when you do for those people, you do for me, right? This is Jesus recognizing the image of God in the least of these, my brothers and sisters, the ones who are in the most need. Jesus calls our attention to them and say, you will see me in those people. And when you are serving the people who are most in need, you will be serving me. Now, that really affects our posture here as Christians. And any neighbors who are with us in the room, if the Christian faith is not something you identify with, maybe this is a little new for you, or maybe you're part of your own church and you're like, okay, yeah, this is what we're preaching at my church too. But those of us who are part of this congregation, this church family, I think we if we bear that name on our chest, if we call ourselves Christian, then we identify with what it is Jesus has for us and what it is Jesus is teaching us here. Interestingly, we are of a Wesleyan heritage here as Nazarenes, and John Wesley, when he would go, he'd establish a church, and early 19th century England. He would establish a church, and once that church got nice and strong, one of the first things he would do was he would pick 7 to 12 people in the church, depending on the size of the church, 7 to 12 people, and their job in the church would be ministering to the homeless, the poor among them, those visiting the sick and in prison. Like, following that Matthew 25 mandate, he would say, this is one of the first things. Now that this church is established and the roots are in, this is what we're going to do. And he would choose a certain number of people in the church and say, this is your job. Make sure this is what the church is doing. And Wesley, I'll quote him once here, directly from one of his sermons. He says, one great reason why the rich, in general, have so little sympathy for the poor is because they so seldom visit them. Now, remember, this is from the early 1800s when this is being written. But I don't know about you, but I have found myself identifying with that statement. I'm not rich, but, it's all kind of perspective, right? I feel like I more identify with those in that quote who, in general, are not in proximity as much as maybe I should have been all along with those who we might call the least of these. So John Wesley challenged me a little bit as I was reading through it, and I know we're not purposefully beating around the bush. We are just kind of laying some groundwork for you. So let tell you where we're going. All right, this is where we're headed. This started last year. The dreaming really did, and honestly, when we paid off our mortgage, church family, we paid off our mortgage a couple summers ago, and someone here in the church came to me one Sunday, not long after. Bob, you came to me one Sunday, and you said, now that we paid off our mortgage, I'd be really interested to hear what we're going to do next to serve our community. And man, that was a good question. That really stuck with me. What are we going to do next now that we've paid off our mortgage? Are we just going to, buy ourselves some nice stuff now that we've paid off our mortgage? Like, is that what we're going to do? Like, what are we going to do? What's our life? What's our church family life? What's our congregational life? What's it going to look like now? And that's been a couple years, right? How long since we paid off our mortgage? I'm just kidding. A couple years, 10, 12 years. Yeah, that's a couple summers ago, and got us praying and dreaming and thinking, and so I started really focusing in on Psalm 114. I felt drawn to it because when we started having these conversations, our church was in our 114th year, and so I just went, you know what? Let's see what Psalm 114 has to say in this, our 114th year. And it says, when the Israelites escaped from Egypt, when the family of Jacob left that foreign land, the land of Judah became God's sanctuary, and Israel became his kingdom. The Red Sea saw them coming and hurried out of their way. The water of the Jordan River turned away. The mountains skipped like rams, and the hills like lambs. Tremble, O earth, at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the God of Jacob. He turned the rock into a pool of water. Yes, a spring of water flowed from solid rock. God is highlighting here, the psalm is highlighting how God does this crazy work of turning what seems like a hopeless situation into something hopeful. And water flows from a rock. With that in mind, we began dreaming. And again, let me just tell you, like I said before, we were trying to navigate how much do we dream, how far down the dreaming road do we go before we come to this meeting, so we don't have people in this meeting going, well, I mean, that's a nice thought, but you guys haven't really done any real work yet, right? Or on the flip side, well, it seems like you guys have already done everything. What do you need us for, right? We're trying to be in between that, so we present like, okay, we have done some work, so we're sort of in the know, but also we're not too far down the road. So that brought us to this. We're calling it, our working title is Judah, a community of restoration, straight from Psalm 114, where water comes from the rock. Show me again, that next slide shows our property. It shows it in a slightly different way. So, nope, back one. So right there is our property. Right, this big box here is 80 acres where our church is there, and this right over here is 11.25 acres. And I never knew how I can't not hold still when I do this. 11.25 acres right there. The 11.25 acres is zoned for residential. So, and then back to that 1999 master plan. One thing that we did point out is that little group of houses right there that could potentially be a housing project. That was what we were dreaming about, and that brought us to this. This is what we're dreaming about when we talk about a place where water flows from the rock. A place that God takes really hard situations and somehow breathes life into them. The dream is this. This is a little community of 8 homes. You'll count 9 buildings there because it's also a, go back for me one, I'll let you know. Thank you, Steve, appreciate you. This building right here would be like an office and community gathering space, where whoever's directing this would be probably a community laundry facility. We're talking about a FEMA-rated storm shelter there because these homes wouldn't have basements. Some storage space, things like that. So yeah, go ahead, Steve. Show me that next one. This is just another view, a tighter view of that building. Show me the next one. There's another. The houses are all the same layout in this stream. The houses are the same layout. Colors change a little bit, so it doesn't look, it shouldn't look like an institution. It should look like a neighborhood, and it should look like a nice enough neighborhood that it looks like it belongs out here in this nice neighborhood. Show me the next one, please. There's the little sign. So again, in this dream, this is Haskell right here running. So you'd be heading south and look over and see the sign and the road. And you'll notice we built it in this layout. We built it pretty far back from the road. So Steve, take me back like 3 slides to that one with the circle. Back one more. And one more. One more for me. Yeah, so like you can kind of see here like some tree cover. This right here and that little bit right there is all tree cover. So it's kind of back from the road. So it's not super easy. Like it's not a direct line of sight necessarily from the road. A little further back. Go ahead and jump back forward for me, Steve. Next slide from there. This is what one of the homes might look like. It's bigger. It's not a tiny home. It's bigger than that, but it's a very small home. Certainly small for today's standards. The way the homes were built are being built now. Though Robbie, you said your very first house was 870 square feet, right? So a small home but livable. It's got 2 bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen. Potentially sleeping 4, maybe 6, depending on how we lay it out. Next one for me. So this is the big one for the church family. This is the capital construction costs that we've laid out so far. Now again, this is way zoomed out. You can only go so far down the road, right, before you actually go, okay, are we really doing this? If so, what does that look like? So this is way zoomed out right now, but that's about what our projection looks like. So comes out to about 2.5 to build the homes. And again, even since I created this, some of the numbers have changed just a little bit. So that's what that little squiggly line means next to the 2.53 is it's around that number. And in future conversations, if we decide that this is something that we want to keep having conversations about, we can talk about potentially where we would go to find some of that funding. We've been talking about that as well. So we're not just like having this meeting tonight going, all right, and everybody drop a check in the box on your way out. That's not what we're doing. We just, and I know 2.53 million is a huge number, astronomical number. If, for me, I've been in the pastoral world my whole life, and 2.53 million is crazy money. Some of you guys deal with multi-million-dollar projects all the time, and that doesn't seem like a very big number to you, but that's kind of our overall projection. A couple more numbers just for me to show you, and then we'll move to the end of this part of it. Go ahead, Steve, for me. 414. This is the most recent data that's available, courtesy of the Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition. There are 414 people that are homeless in Douglas County. You can see that it's about a third, and third, whether they are in the green, they are unsheltered. in some sort of transitional housing or in some sort of emergency shelter at the time that this point in time data was taken. And then if you're wondering, well, are they just coming in from outside or whatever, and they're just like coming in, we're always getting, if you'll see on that other chart there, 71% of them at this point in time had been here for at least a year, 17%, 0 to 6 months, and 13%, 7 to 12 months. The next slide, if you would, a study by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, followed 179 families across 36 transitional housing programs. 1 year after exiting the program, 79% of these families had secured permanent housing, indicating a significant positive impact on housing stability. Our dream that we've been talking about would be to potentially build. Go back to the wide shot of the houses for me, would you, Steve? To potentially build this little community here, and anybody that would live there would work through a program that would have them staying there for a certain amount of time. We haven't said that. That's some of the details that we're not there yet because we don't know where we're going. But would be there for a certain amount of time, and they would have to hit certain milestones. And that's generally how transitional housing works. And at the end of that, then working with some other local agencies, hopefully to move them into permanent housing. If you walk down Mass Street and your posture is ever, man, why are there so many people? Like, why are there so many people who are unhoused up and down the street or whatever? Well, perhaps something like this will help. Perhaps something like this will create an opportunity, an avenue to permanent housing. Here in a few minutes, when we break, whenever that is, I have those slides that you saw. I've got them. So if you wanna get a little close and personal with them and linger on them a little bit, and you can come and do that over here and see our property and see the layout a little bit. So they're all over here for you to interact with, and yeah, that's the dream. That's what we've been talking about, and we're ready, I think, to talk to you about it, right? So Robbie, you want to set that up for us?
Yeah. So this next part, this is gonna help us figure out what we do next. It's gonna help us continue to form the questions that we ask. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you right now, like what I guess I'll stand up. It's time to preach. No. So what this is not gonna be is like what we've seen with like some Lawrence school board meetings. Like, that's not happening tonight, okay? If you have a question that you would like to ask, then you are welcome to ask that question, okay? So we would like to know, what are the type of questions that you would like for us to be asking? Does that make sense? Okay. Well, what would you like for us to be asking? There's lots of gaps in this. Okay, like we understand that. Like, there's so many gaps in this, but we think these conversations, these questions, will help us fill in some of these gaps. Okay. Also, just so y'all know, this is being live streamed. So we'll give you the recording of this if you want it. It's not top secret. It's going to be out there on this thing called the internet. So we'll get it. I see a few people holding their phones up recording this, and that's fine. But like, we'll get you a really quality recording that you're welcome to have. But I say that also to say that when you ask your questions, we're not gonna be up. We don't have someone recording this and typing this. We're using that live stream recording that we'll go back to and really dive into those questions that you have. So this is JJ. If you don't know JJ, JJ is one of our teenagers here at the church. So we'll just open this up again. What are the questions that you hope that we will be asking? Okay, and if you need clarification on something that we've presented tonight, you can ask for that. That's fine. We're not trying to like grip this thing, but we do want to make sure that again we're having a conversation here. That's what we're doing. Okay, yeah.
Just so we can revisit it in the live stream and hear your question and everything. I know some of you are like, I'm loud, I don't need a mic. In the live stream, you do need a mic. That's the only way you'll come through. So let JJ bring it to you, okay? Got those Crocs in sport mode, bro? All right. JJ will get that out to you, and we'll so wait for that mic to get to you, and then we can chat.
Yep. And let's start with our regular attenders of the church, our congregation members that are here. We'll start with you guys and see what questions you have. Okay? All right. Joanne.
So will the church be working with community organizations to decide who gets to live there and how long they live there, and what's the process to get them? Is it like to help them find jobs? Like, is that going to be involved as well, or what?
Yeah, that's definitely the conversation that we're having. We've, like I said, Aaron sits on the board for Family Promise. We've had a couple meetings with that local organization, and there are some others. The idea would hopefully be that we would have a partnership with an established organization that could help us run this, and so we would essentially provide the land and the organization, but like they would maybe help us to provide the services that are a part of it. And we're still working through that, but definitely conversations that we've been having just to see what sort of engagement we could possibly get with those other organizations, and they've been good conversations.
Yeah, and we're in no way going, we know how to do this. Okay? That's a great question. And it's one we're wrestling with. Yeah. Yeah.
Getting it's good. You've certainly done homework on this and getting funding. Let's say this is a question to ask, I guess. Is once you get this done, you get the wagon built, you got the wheels on the wagon, it's moving. The question is sustainability. We can do proof of concept and show that it works, but keeping it going, that's going to be certainly faith in the Lord and trust is a big one, but maybe there's some other things that we might be asking ourselves.
Yeah, I think you're referring to one of the things that has kept me up at night, right? Is we're making a decision that goes way beyond the lifetime of myself, right? Like, we're making a decision that, 40 years from now, there's this church, this community is going to be, it's going to be dropped in their lap, right? It's like this has to be something that can't just be, well, we thought it was a good idea, and now our whole board is no longer on the board, and 20 years from now, I told my wife this afternoon, I said, the chances of any of our staff members being here even in 10 years is probably kind of slim, right? And so we're making decisions that's more than just about us. Is that what you're getting at? Like the sustainability, the longevity, are we thinking about more than just right now?
Maybe add in a contract, a clause that when you leave, your 401k stays here. Would that work? Just kidding.
Yeah, that's helpful. And there's a financial element to it too, Glenn, right? Like it's going to cost money to continue. And we have run some of those numbers, just starting to think about operating costs and things like that. So definitely something that and we're counting on a pretty big check from you. So, but yes, it's definitely something that we have been considering and we need to continue to consider. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this guy shows up as a part-timer 25 years ago, and now he's still here. And he's like, chances of us being here are pretty slim. Well, us maybe, but not you.
You better still be here.
Maybe not after this.
The
I don't know.
I think you were talking about us when you said
No
not being
way.
here. Well, this will be a question for way down the road, but we don't exactly live real close to potential jobs and so on. Most people coming probably wouldn't have a car, so are there community programs that offer rides for interviews and things like that?
It's a great question. We are familiar with some. We have been in conversation, Jill, our conversation with Jill the other day, we were talking about just accessibility, a bus route stop getting out here, things like that. Not only, Lawrence bus route, but also a school bus route, coming out here for kids, because we're talking about family housing, right? That's where we would focus. And maybe I didn't say that enough earlier. Like our primary focus here is families. We want, we want nuclear families. We want to be able to come here. We want kids to have a house, right? A place to go. And so, but we definitely need to be considering those sorts of resources. And accessibility is a very important part of this. And I'd say it's one of the questions that we don't have the answer to yet, but one that we need to continue thinking about. Thank you, Shannon. By the way, any of those, the people I introduced earlier, sorry, Dave, just a second. If you hear a question and you're like, can I speak to that? Please do, okay? Family meeting, all right? So if one of you guys, you're like, actually, I could maybe help explain that better, or maybe Kyle, you can talk a little less, then that'd be fine. So please feel free to jump in.
In thinking about the wagon wheel of houses that is there, and in consideration of Robbie saying, we don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, who will be here, who will be deciding whether this is possibly a ministry, should it come to fruition, whether we're going to continue it, what have we found out, or maybe it's a good question to find out, what is an exit strategy? Can we sell those? Can that be something that can change later down the road should it become a problem that we are not feeling called to continue with?
That's a good question. It's a good question. Probably the answer right now is I don't know. So thank you for bringing that up. I think we've always got to be thinking about, what ifs. And to be honest, we've been living in what could this be? And I think that's a helpful question for us to consider. So I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you right now, but that's good. Those are the type of questions we need. That's good. Thank you.
I'd also like to chime in and say I also don't know. But no, Dave, thank you for helping us think that direction. That's good. Really good.
The follow-up thought that I'm just having is, even if the homes individually could be sold, I don't know what could happen with the community center aspect of that. I do see the value of it within the context of those structures that are there, but should an exit strategy have to happen, maybe it's 9 actual houses, one being used as the administrative portion of that to where they could be sold. I don't know what the county requires as far as acreages and things. Neither do you. That's questions to be thought of.
That's great. Yes. Thank you. JJ's coming.
put your hand up again. Phil first, okay, and then Michelle. I think there was maybe another one over.
Question comes to my mind is, how is this going to be administered? Who's going to, how do you qualify people for this? How do you kick them out, et cetera? I mean, it's not an easy process to deal with these types of people. They're in trouble. They need help. Can they help themselves? How do we help them help themselves? That's a lot of questions and answers that have to be made, and somebody's got to do it. Who's going to handle that?
That's a great question, Phil, and that's part of what Joanne was talking about with our potential partnership with an organization that already has some knowledge in this, that knows how to help navigate those situations. I think would be extremely valuable in this. And if that partnership, was more than just them whispering in our ear and was, hey, like actually coming alongside and helping us make this happen, I think we'd love to see something like that would help significantly. So, Missy, you gonna jump in there?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sorry. Sorry I was late. I'm Misty with the City of Lawrence, and just wanted to speak to that. What we do in situations where we are housing folks temporarily, and that's what this would be, sounds like a temporary housing for people to make their next step. What we do is we treat people like guests. So they are guests of a unit, not a resident. And with that protection, there's not an eviction process that needs to happen. If this was something that I were running, it would be a referral from an agency that we know of, like Family Promise. They say we've got this family working hard. Dad's in Peasley Tech. They need 6 months to get up on their feet. And then connected to tenants to homeowners for their next step, and then the agency, whoever is doing the case management, follows that family through. If somebody wasn't a good fit, they would be asked to leave, and they would, a case manager would help them find a better fit. Is that helpful?
Thank you. That's great. Yeah, and some of the other things that we've talked about, Phil, and others who are thinking that same thing, by having some sort of office space out there, we have a presence, someone who's helping to just kind of generally manage everything that's going on. That both a presence from thinking about the buildings and everything, but also thinking about the people. There's a lot to it, and then we would want to put security things in place, cameras, and then potentially even naming. And I know some of you are thinking, so I'll just say it, like potentially maybe even naming one of the units as whoever's living here is kind of the RA, as it were, right? Like they're 24 hours a day, like they live there, and they are aligned to what's going on, and just helping to keep the peace, and helping helping just let us know anything that's going on, thinking that direction as well. So, and again, we don't have any of those details all hammered out, but it's definitely stuff we've been thinking about. So thank you, Phil. I saw one there, and then Elena, I saw you back here, and I saw Corey up here, and I saw Michelle over there. So, and then Mike, you go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
All right, well, I was one of the people that was on the board when we bought this property out here, and our vision, and yeah, it was all up there. This actually wasn't part of the vision, obviously, at that point. We were looking at housing for retirement housing. But a couple things that I see that needs to be looked at, I guess. I'm not looking for an answer, but needs to be looked at is this isn't going to be self-funding, okay? So you're going to have people in place that are constantly looking for funding for this. I work right now part-time for O'Connell Children's Shelter, and I see the amount of people in the background that are working to keep that place funded, and it's a lot of work. The other thing that I found out too shortly after we bought the property, dealing with the county, is if we were to put buildings over there on that 10 or 11 acres, there was going to have to be a deceleration lane off of Haskell. There is not enough frontage road there on Haskell for a deceleration lane. So something else would have to be figured out in that situation.
Yeah, that's great. We had heard the same thing when we first started talking about this, and so one of our first like official meeting about this last November was with several people from the city and the county. There were like 12 people in the room, and that was one of the questions we asked. And tell me what, this is gonna be hard for you, but tell me what you remember.
Yes. Here's what I remember. Yeah, no, that was one of the first things early on. Because to be honest with you, we kept looking for obstacles. Like, we kept looking for closed doors, right? Like, okay, yeah, obviously this can't happen. Okay, obviously this can't happen. We kept running into open doors. So that one of those, the first one was that deceleration lane. We were not told, no, you don't need to have that. The people in the room that we were with who make those decisions said, I don't see that this should remain an obstacle for you. So that's what we were told.
I don't know what their official titles were, but there's somebody from zoning and codes there, somebody that plans roads. I don't know who that person
Jill
is.
would know better
Jill
than
would
us.
know
but
like who's who, but yes, we had heard that, Mike, and so we brought that to that meeting thinking the same thing, and we left that meeting understanding that was not going to be an obstacle for us.
The reason they told us it was an obstacle is because of the hill. There's no vision coming over the top of that hill.
That's good, and something for us to revisit for sure, to be sure of. Thank you.
Hey, JJ, let Jill jump in real quick because she may have information on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the comment that you made about fundraising, and I think that's really important. I would say it's one of the conversations that we've had about, and it relates to the question about sustainability that I heard over there. And I think when you think about housing folks in this situation, one of the things that how Misty and I approach this work is, in situations like this, we're asking families or single individuals to be paying 30% of their income. That's their portion of the rent for starters. And then slowly you move up to 90%, and then slowly you're off on a path to full sustainability, and that's what most of these folks want. So a best practice when you're housing folks is starting with 30% of income and transitioning folks, again, on a time schedule with milestones to get to that 90%, 100%, and they're off on their way. So I wanted to speak to that. One of the conversations the last conversations that Kyle and Misty and I had, one of the suggestions I had was to be starting a conversation as soon as possible with the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority around how could you assign vouchers to these units so that if these families were awarded a Section 8 voucher, they could use that voucher to pay significant amount, if not all, of the rent and a portion of the utilities for these units. So there's some sustainability questions. The other thing that's come up is that a question that I would ask if the county were approached to be a funder for a project like this, and I'll just say that this is something that the county would have an interest in supporting, because we have a strategic plan to end homelessness in our community and supporting for the families in our community. If you look at our dashboard this evening, there are 30 families experiencing homelessness in Lawrence Douglas County according to our dashboard. So the county knows that we have a need to support this, the population of folks. We don't have any alternatives for them right now. So if we were to be approached to provide funding, one-time funding, or even ongoing, but I think this is a great project that the county would look at as a one-time funding opportunity for those capital costs. One of the questions we're gonna ask is, what is your operating plan? What is the pro forma? How are you partnering with local organizations? So just echoing the questions that have been asked in this conversation today. But Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority is a great partner. But I want to specifically say I really appreciate the comment about how much work it goes into not-for-profit fundraising. There might be too many not-for-profits in Lawrence Douglas County. But that work is substantial, and there's a finite amount of resources. What I would say is that you have a peer organization, Faith Partner, and Ninth Street Missionary Baptist Church requested $900,000 from Douglas County in this year, one-time capital cost to build 6 units of housing just off 9th and Tennessee that they're going to complete here any day now. One of the questions that we asked was, what's your operating plan? How are you going to pay for it? And one of the things that we look at is what's that amount that you're going to have to fundraise for? What's that gap look like? And what's your plan for that? We always interrogate questions like that, and other funders are going to do that. What I would say that you have built in is it's what you're embarking on today is making a commitment on behalf of this church. So I think that's incredible. And as the county, that seems like an incredible partnership. If we're approaching it as a partner, this congregation looks like a great partnership to us. But I appreciate, so looking at that, interrogating what is your pro forma, what's your operating plan, it's a really important question, and we'll be asking that if we're asked to be a part of this project.
Thank you, Jill.
I just have a few questions. One question I had is kind of just what led the church to go this route. I mean, I think it's a great cause, helping the homeless, but with all this land, I think there's, definitely other options. Like, why don't we use that 11 acres for like farming? And we could give all that food to all these families. It would help way more than 8 families. It would help a tremendous amount of people. The closest bus stop is 3 miles from here. And if they can come out, that's great. But as of now, it's about 3 miles. A lot of these people that live in places like this don't have vehicles. And then if and when they do get jobs, sometimes they're second, third shift. So they may be going into work at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Like, how are they going to get there? And just looking 20 years down the road, say we were to just use the land and farm it. And if you guys are gone and no one wants to run it anymore, we just still have that land, and it's not $2.5 million just sitting there with all this, like, these buildings and this infrastructure that we put in, and now 20 years later, no one wants to do it anymore. And so that's just a really big concern, that it is so much work, and I think the whole church really needs to be bought in now, and then down the road. I mean, this is going to take a lot of people to make this happen. So I'm just curious why the church decided to go this route instead of doing something else with the land, or even just selling the land and just donating that money to help with other homeless causes. Like, we could still give that money to support homeless causes. So I'm just really interested as to why we chose this specific initiative.
Yeah, Elena, you are one of a few in here who have the unique perspective of, you're a part of this church and you live right over there, right? So you just have a unique perspective. And so I would say the answer to that question is to say none of those options that you have talked about are off the table. Okay, like, this is, again, and I want to reiterate this. This is not, okay, we've crossed off all the other potential options to be good stewards of the land, and this is the one we're doing, right? That's not our posture tonight, okay? We do feel like the Lord is leading us in this direction. Now, does that mean that we believe that God has said, this is what I want you to do? No. We're taking this one step at a time, one question at a time, one hearing from our neighbors at a time, and just trying to discern where this needs to go next. So I just want to be clear that it's not like, this is what we're doing. all that stuff's off the table. So I think some of the things you mentioned are things that have been brought up. I think you mentioned one or two things that maybe haven't brought up that kind of made me go, oh, that's a pretty good idea. So to answer your question, we feel like this is a direction the Lord is leading us. And we feel like it meets a very real need, a very tangible need. Not that those other things don't. But I appreciate. I'm hearing your question, and I think it's gonna make us help us consider some things. Yeah.
I appreciate the question really. I appreciate all these questions. A couple things that don't satisfy all the questions you answered, but just so you know a little bit about what was in our head. Some of what was in our head was that the little housing project that was kind of on the original blueprints from 1999, that 11.25 acres is zoned for residential, and so so putting some sort of housing project was part of that original thought. And like Mike said, could it have been retirement housing that was talked about? Housing for missionaries, like retired missionaries, that was talked about. And then when we made a video kind of celebrating that we paid off our debt a couple of years ago, Dr. Don Dunn, is he in the room somewhere? Dr. Dunn said in that video that that one of the original dreams was also potential housing for the homeless. And so some of it was maybe trying to realize what had been dreamed up 25 years ago. That was part of where we were coming from. And then, like Robbie said, as we were thinking about it and going, could this be the way that we use this? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let's go down the road and see where it goes. And we've just been looking for roadblocks. We've been looking for people to tell us no, and we have just been kind of just surprised with how many yeses we've gotten, from the city and from the county and from zoning and codes and from other organizations in town. We keep going, like kind of tentatively dipping our toe in and be like, what do you guys think of? And we get like a resounding, let's go, let's keep thinking about this, let's keep doing. And so that's just kind of helped to continue to propel us forward as we continue to dream about it. But I agree with Robbie. So, some of the things you said. I mean, yeah, that nothing's off the table at this point. It's just us attempting to see potentially that dream from 25 years ago into fruition today.
Let's get Michelle. Michelle was, I think, the second one that raised her hand over here, and then Corey up front here after Michelle.
I have several questions, but I'll try to limit myself. One is I liked the idea of if it ends up becoming too much eventually, that the homes could be sold and maybe even be like a retirement community, and so then some thought would need to be put into how they're built and accessibility for that. The other thing is the people who will be housed there. Would you do fingerprint background checks? I don't know what Family Promise does, but I know the people are living in very close proximity. I see Misty nodding her head. Do they do that for Family Promise? Okay, so they do fingerprint, and I would want fingerprint background checks rather than name background checks. And the other question is maybe do some research in, like, Douglas County has always been a place that is welcoming for people experiencing homelessness. And Douglas County, for as long as I can remember, and I've lived here my entire life, has said we're trying to combat homelessness. But I feel like it is continuing to grow. And so maybe looking in, doing some research into how long has Douglas County been helping the homeless? What funds have been put into it? And what did it, when we have records of how it started, what are the records? How many homeless did we start with? way back whenever that started, and what is it now? So basically, is Douglas County effectively helping the homeless? Because we don't want to get into a project where we're just perpetuating a problem. And then another thing is, if this is going to be part of our church, a church project, and a project that we want to identify ourselves as Christians and help people in a Christ-like way, but we're including county resources, how do you keep that separate and maintain our Christian ethics?
Excellent questions. Excellent questions. Let's all go home. Michelle, first of all, I have so much respect for your knowledge in this area, just generally speaking, and I appreciate you asking the questions. And I know Misty looks like she'd like to give a little bit of an answer, and I don't know if Jill's nodding for Misty or if she's nodding to also. Okay, but Misty can help address a little bit of what you're talking about as far as addressing homelessness in the area. So let's start there. Misty, would you help us with that?
I feel like you should start with the plan and the background on the funding, and then we'll do it together.
So I'd say historically, Douglas County has funded, if you're just talking about straight up supporting folks experiencing homelessness, the funding that the county provides to the Lawrence Community Shelter is the best representation of that on an ongoing annual operating budget. So it's $290,000. We do have a program, another program that helps folks that right now just men that are exiting the Douglas County Jail get rehoused in 2 recovery homes in Lawrence, Kansas. It's called Artists Helping the Homeless. It's a really incredible program. And when we think about the questions around transportation that have been asked, that's a great model. It's not apples to apples, but because we're talking about families here, but we have examples. So those are 2 examples that historically Douglas County, and that's comparably to what the rest of the county's budget goes towards. It's not a significant amount of money. The city of Lawrence, on the other hand, city of Lawrence taxpayers significantly larger in footprint, but that footprint is budgeted forecast to go down significantly as it relates to the work that Misty's team has been doing historically, Lawrence Community Shelter, with the hope that we can stem what arguably has been a tide historically of folks, because it is a welcoming community. I think that there's 2 sides to that, the reason we've had the numbers of unsheltered homelessness historically, those numbers have gone down significantly because of the work of these pink hats up here and others. Those numbers have gone down, and we are pushing hard to make sure that those numbers continue to go down. And one of the biggest tools that we have there is, we're not calling it a policy anymore, but it is a prioritization practice that has frankly we've met with so much pushback around in terms of folks that feel that we need to continue to always be a welcoming community regardless of the cost of that. So when folks come to Lawrence, Douglas County that don't have a history of living here, have family connections here, the prioritization practice for resources is that those individuals are offered a respite stay at the Lawrence Community Shelter if they're willing to work with someone to make a plan for their next step. And what can happen is a bus ticket can be purchased, a hotel room temporarily, perhaps, but that doesn't happen that often. A plan is made, and a lot of the work happens with the folks with the pink hats up here, and that's a countywide resource. So we work with the city of Lawrence at the county if folks are encountered that don't have a history here in Douglas County. So, but there are folks that feel otherwise, that we need to continue to be welcoming, and I would just say that, Misty and I, we need your support. That is a practice. Maybe it does need to be a policy, that we need to be making sure that we are ensuring that resources are prioritized for Douglas County residents to the greatest extent possible. And I would just say that prioritization practice, we are trying to exercise that on a regular basis, but we get pushback even from state partners and federal partners as well. But if that is a value that we have in Douglas County that we want We want to be safe and welcoming for a short respite stay and then get folks on their way as much as possible. But the majority of our resources, including resources like these, would be prioritized only for Douglas County residents.
And that, can you hear me? Okay. And that was pretty much what I wanted to say too, is that we do have that practice, and because we have that practice and because we've been very intentional with every person that we meet experiencing homelessness, we have reduced unsheltered homelessness by 63% from January of 24 to 25, and overall homelessness by 30%. And it looks, just tonight we got a call from somebody who's experiencing domestic violence. She shows up at the shelter. She's from Johnson County, not really knowing where to turn. She drove here. She's been sleeping in her car, and we gave her respite, and with the understanding that tomorrow she's going to work with us, and we're going to tell her and show her what options are available in Johnson County when somebody is escaping domestic violence. So that's kind of what those situations look like. We don't say we won't help people. We just help them in different ways, and we prioritize Douglas County with the residents that we have here, the resources we give to those individuals.
Thank you so much. And Michelle, just to speak to one of the things you said about fingerprinting, and we know people who are here in the room, like some of you are here because we're talking about your neighborhood. So, I mean, we recognize the gravity of that, and please do not ever feel like we are dismissive of that or not even considering that or thinking about that. We've been thinking about that the whole time, and we recognize how important that is, and you want to know who's living around the corner from you. You want to know who your neighbors are. And so that is definitely, it's just something that we've been thinking about this whole time. Please know it's on our minds and our hearts, and what it's going to look like to create this potentially a new kind of branch of the neighborhood on our property. And so I just want to name that. Just if that feels like the elephant in the room to anybody, I just want to be able to name that. That's something it's definitely on our minds and hearts as well. Sorry, Misty.
Yep, sorry. I didn't address that. So we created the Pallet Village at 256 North Michigan with the understanding that we were putting it in a neighborhood close to a daycare. And so our promise to be good neighbors were that nobody was going to be there that had a violent offense, any type of sexual assault, that this area was, heavily inundated with children. And so it was important for us to prioritize veterans, elderly, women or men that were fleeing from domestic violence, or people with physical disabilities. And that has been open. It was a year in March, and we have never had one complaint of the individuals from the neighbors around there, which we really expected because it was hard to get them on board. But we have not had one complaint about those folks. The other piece you said is, how do we keep this faith-based? I write the contracts for the city funding. Jill writes. We don't put faith. I mean, that's usually like a federal mandate. Is keep the church separate. That's not something that we do with our funding.
Thank you. You want to come to Corey right here, JJ? Or Misty, thank you.
Hi. I know we've talked about partnering with Family Promise for case management services and resources. And historically, I believe that a lot of the families in the past have stayed in the churches kind of locally. And, like Jill mentioned, there's 30 families right now who are experiencing homelessness. And, thinking about 8 of those families, instead of maybe staying in a church in neighborhoods, having their own space, essentially that's what it would be, right? Is that they would, instead of them being, in a church in a neighborhood or unhoused somewhere else, they would have their own safe space to be able to kind of go through and get the resources that they need. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, and some of that's yet to be determined. There's different stages in the process, and that's one thing is we don't see this as a shelter, right? We don't see this as a hey, however many people we can squeeze in there on this really cold night. I assume you guys you're doing emergency shelters tonight, probably, right? Yeah, that's not how we see this. There will be a process for getting in. There will be a process for staying in. There will be a process and a plan for how do we help them move through here. So I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but yeah, this not an emergency shelter.
Right.
That's not what this is.
I guess my point was Family Promise has been providing temporary housing for many, many years in churches, in neighborhoods, and there's been a lot of success. And so I think if anyone is feeling any kind of uneasiness, to maybe look into those kind of organizations to see the success and to see, that, we could have, I don't know. So just to keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's great. And Family Promise is a national organization. They have they know what they're doing. And the Family Promise is not necessarily, they're not up here with us rubber stamping this. It's a conversation that we've been having with them. But even using the words transitional housing is a little bit of a misnomer in that, I was meeting with Brenda Wall, who's the executive director of Family Promise just recently, and she said, this, when you think of transitional housing, you think of real short term, maybe 3 to 6 months. This might be more like, depending on how we write the program and what we put it, this might be more like sustainable housing rather than transitional housing, maybe a family, and I don't want to get out ahead, put the cart before the horse, but maybe a family is able to move in and be there for a year, 18 months or whatever, and really establish, a base under them so they can effectively and successfully move on to whatever that next step looks like. But yes, so that's what we're dreaming about, and Family Promise is an amazing resource for that. Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember who was. Okay, well, we had Mike over here. I think Mike was next. So let's go to Mike, and then you said there's somebody over here. Way back over here. Okay.
All right, I know somebody just talked about the HUD vouchers, and those of you who own rentals and have dealt with HUD, that is a very rough process to get HUD approved. If there's a hole in the screen, you're not going to get HUD approved. If there's a gutter hanging down, you're not going to get HUD approved. So that's kind of stuff you have to think of when you are looking at that funding. So that leads to who's doing that maintenance. I know we talked about that there's going to have to be some upkeep, and that's going to have to be something that's going to be done quickly. So you're talking about maybe somebody else on staff that's going to be running some of that. And we've seen the big number up there at 2.53 million, which I'm glad to see that. That's one of the things I was going to ask. But have we talked about maybe doing this in phases? I know you have to do so much to make it worth building, like do 2 houses, then wait a year or 2 to see how it goes, instead of just doing all 8 or 9 at one time. Because I'm of the same opinion, whoever said it over there, that if something happens and we have to liquidate that, we're going to have a lot of money tied up into something that we may or may not get back. And some of you guys talked about there's other projects like this going on in Lawrence. And I know there's going to be a lot of these neighbors that are here today wanting to know what's this going to do to their property values. And you guys probably have some of those numbers maybe because you've done this in these neighborhoods, and is there a change or not? And I'm sure that's why a lot of these guys are here tonight that are not part of the church.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, that's, yeah, no, you're right. Those are good things. I don't have answers for you to tell you, hey, here's how we're going to deal with that. But we need to be processing those types of things. So thank you.
We're going to take one over here.
Hi, I'm not a church family. I'm one of the neighbors, and I have a few questions. It all sounds great on paper. I want to know the cons. I have a family member that has worked with the homeless shelter for a long time. Heard a lot of cons, of things that go wrong. It sounds really great, but maintenance. There's a lot of maintenance. You've got families that have not had a property that don't take care of it. So is somebody on that property going to make sure that your investment that you're doing is taken care of? But my investment living here, my property value is very potentially going down. And you can say it won't. It'll look pretty for, like you said, for a few years. But if you guys all decide to move along, the next group of people that come in and take over this might not have the same heart. And that's my concern, because I'm planning on still being here 25 years from now. My grandkids will be here 25 years from now. And I have a concern of who's living by my grandkids. People sneak through the cracks all the time. You can fingerprint all you want, you can do all that, and they still can sneak through the cracks. So I would like to know ahead and not maybe tape to my mailbox, but I do appreciate whoever taped the note to my mailbox to let me know about the meeting tonight. I believe that should have been talked to the community as well. So, but thank you very much.
Yeah, what was your first name again?
Julie.
Julie, thank you, Julie. No, I really appreciate that. I'm probably going to go out of order here just a little bit. The invitation to this did not come from the church.
I know.
Okay, and I'm not saying like, well, it wasn't us. We didn't. And so I hope early on when I mentioned that the point here was a congregational meeting. It was a meeting with our church to have these discussions. Again, not to shut anyone out, but the next step will be mailings to, within every house within 1.5 miles?
It's 138 houses.
Okay, so there's 138 houses in that, this area. And so that next meeting would be the opportunities to share things like this. Because here's the thing, like I want to name this, okay? We're so grateful to have neighbors, okay? And it's really, really important for us that we are a good neighbor, okay? I want you to know that. Your questions, your input, we're not going to just sit here and go, well, we're going to have a meeting, sometime in December, and we just got to sit here and take it for a couple hours, and then once they all leave, we'll just go ahead and do whatever we want to do. That is not our posture, okay? We want to be good neighbors, okay? I appreciate your concerns, right? I'm not even going to tell you that I understand your concerns. I don't live in this neighborhood, okay? I work in this neighborhood. I serve in this neighborhood. Those are real. Those are valid. I just want you to know I'm hearing you, okay? Like, I don't have answers for you, but I want you to know that I'm hearing you, okay? And I want you to know that if we decide to move forward with that community meeting, meaning if we decide, hey, we want to keep pursuing this, and so we will have that community meeting, not, well, maybe we shouldn't have that. That may not go well, okay? We want you to know that we look forward to that and hearing more about that.
And
so thank you, Julie.
And hopefully just from our position, just know that what we didn't want to do is reach out and have a big community meeting, and then our congregation find out and be like, that's my church. What are we talking about? So we thought that's why it was maybe important to have a family meeting, a congregation meeting. Let's talk about this before it, gets blasted out to the world. So And just kind of starting with a small circle. So it started with, the staff and the board, small circle, and then the bigger circle, this congregation, and then the community, and each one of those kind of stair stepping. So
Goes Kelly was right over here.
right here.
Right here.
Oh,
Oh,
oh, Bob's got
okay, Bob.
Bob and then Kelly, and then let's chat for a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you both for your heart, and I think that everything you've said is quite biblical. My experience, however, goes back 25 years as a real estate manager for Amico Wall Company. So I've been through all these traps of zoning and building permits and on and on and on. Plus, I was on the board with this church and Don Dunn in the 2025 plan, original plan. I shared a little of that with Robbie in an email not long ago. I would ask that the board and staff would rethink this whole position. Now, first of all, you have to ask yourself, what is our core business? What is our core business? And I think you'd all agree it's to lead people to Jesus Christ and our Lord and Savior. I'm not sure that spending $2.53 million, which we do not have, to do this, nor do we have the expertise, the professionalism, and whatever to do a monster project like this, and I've done them, I can tell you what it takes. And it's a whole staff of people. And once built, you're gonna have maintenance and upkeep, and the cabinet door comes off, the garage door doesn't work, and somebody, including staff, is gonna have to go fix it and make it right. You need to think about those type of things. And the money, the overhead. We learned that as a church when we had parsonages for our pastors. It was a money pit. We finally sold it to the pastor in order to get out of the annual debt of replacing carpets, windows, cabinets, garage doors, redoing the lawn. We just couldn't keep up that maintenance. I know what our budgets are. I know how much money we take in per year. There is no way. Now, a possible way to move forward would be to find a developer who has all of these tools, and our donation could be land. But we do not want the legal liabilities that go with trying to run a transitional housing unit. Believe me, you're going to be sued on multiple levels. And we as a church don't need that expense. So if you want to move forward with this process, my suggestion would be to find a developer. And our position would be, we donate the land provided you do the development, you own it, you take care of it, but it must meet these requirements of the church. That's just a thought, something to consider.
Yeah, no, thank you, Bob. You know my response to that email was, I always appreciate your wisdom. And
I've been down those roads.
you've been around a little while, right? Yes. No. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we knew, even kind of coming into this, this is what happens in a family meeting is we don't all see it the same way, and we want to hear each other because we're all a part of this. And so,
JJ Kelly right here.
yeah, right here, and then we'll pause for a second after Kelly.
Joe, I think.
Yeah, so my question is, I know we're talking and partnering with the county and the city, but other than the financial support that the church would offer, what other types of services would we be able to provide as a church body? A lot of the questions of, the maintenance and some of those things, are we able to do some of that without taking on the legal responsibilities in that? So.
Yeah, I mean, what we don't want to do is we don't want to just go, hey, we built this thing. It's somewhere back there. we don't really know what they're doing. We don't really know who's taking care of it. Like that's not what we want. And that's part of this meeting here is if we don't feel like the church is on board enough that the church would invest time and expertise and maintenance and stuff like that, then we're definitely going to be getting in over our heads. And so that's all part of the conversation. The hope would be that the church would invest in that. And we don't think the church can handle it all by ourselves by any means. But yeah, we would hope that we would have people who would be willing to volunteer, perform maintenance, mow, form relationships with the people who will, be staying in the houses. Like that's a huge component of it. So yes, that would be the hope.
Yeah, we'd love to have people in the church that would be willing to host classes there, teach financial peace, teach, sustainable, like cooking for a family and shopping and figuring out, how to make meals that last, and hosting Bible studies and things there are definitely some relational components that we would love if we did something like this. We could see the church investing in addition to, helping to maintain it, and like Jill said earlier, there are some avenues that we could pursue financially. So the expectation would not just be that we as a church are just going to take on this big lump sum, $2.5 million plus however much money ever, and it's just like, okay, let's figure out where to find this money, because I agree with you, Bob. I know our financials as well, and we don't have the overhead to drop that kind of money, right? But there are some avenues that we could pursue and some partners, some other ways to find some of those finances to help make it a reality. But again, something that we're considering pursuing. So I know there's still several hands up, and did you say Joe over here?
I just saw a hand over here.
And Kelly's gone up quite a few times.
Kelly,
so
okay.
let's
yes.
Okay. So let's do this. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make an executive decision. It's in my title. So Joe, and then Kelly, and then Jim, and then if we'd be willing, Robbie and myself, Misty, Jill, if you guys don't have to hustle right out, Aaron, anybody on the church board that would be willing, let's just stick around here for a few minutes. And if you need to come and ask a question that we could continue to consider, then we'll kind of host those right here. But then we'll not hold everyone hostage that needs to pick up their kids or need to get home, get to bed and all that stuff. So Kelly, our youth pastor, we're already 15 minutes past her bedtime. So all right, so Joe, and then Kelly, and then Jim, and then we'll pause right there for a minute. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
I just wanted to say, actually, I'm Joe's daughter.
Oh, sorry.
And I also live nearby in the neighborhood. I am not a member of the church, not part of the church family. But I just wanted to speak for many of the neighbors who we have discussed with, and everyone who I have talked to is very much opposed, same as we are. And mine isn't necessarily a question, but kind of like a statement that I kind of feel like your sermon was executing maybe an undue level of influence over your congregation. And it's just not something that we want in our neighborhood.
I was going to say something real fast. I am a member here, and my property backs up to that. And I've been in the rental business my whole life. And it might look good that you're helping the families and stuff, but in my experience, you don't know who's all living there. And it's way harder and more of a problem than people even realize, and it also can be very unsafe.
Actually, do have a question. Do you happen to know if this plan will require a conditional use permit from the county?
It will.
Okay, and do you realize that those conditional use permits are only temporary? Some of them are granted for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So if you build this and you only get a 3-year conditional use permit that the county officials approve, then your next officials that come into office may deny it and shut down this community that you already have built?
Yeah, I don't know all of the details about the longevity of a conditional use permit. I do know that that they do have a shelf life.
Yep, they're normally time stamped. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So that's good to point out. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys.
All right, we're coming over to Kelly. I'll come to you. I'll make JJ run all the way.
Mine is more of a question of there have been two other resources named, the one at the preschool and then the church that just established 6 houses. There's also Unwashed Ministries that another church does. We have a ton of resources that we could take half of that money and we could pour it into and come alongside someone and really support them instead of putting ourselves in a hole, really putting the neighbors on the side, putting a lot of people out there instead of, like, I agree. There's a call, there's a need for homeless help, and we are called to do that. We could also donate that land. I'm coming along, Mike Tate, you and I was like, yes, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, there's a lot of other ways. It doesn't have to be one way. Are we looking at every single way and reaching out to those other churches and saying, well, how can we help you? We have this. We have a group behind you. You have 6 houses already. Let's get 10. We could get behind you and get 10. Or we have this land. Well, how can we help you? Instead of it being, it's a lot to put on a church of 250. And it's a lot to put now, like just right now. So that's my thought.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously we always want to be partnering with people who are doing things well, right? You know, I never want us to be a church that thinks we have to be on the cutting edge, right? I mean, I don't mean this as a knock, but like we've been to other churches, right? Where it's like, oh wow, man, they got a lot of lights on that stage, right? And I know some of you don't even like if we had one light up there, you'd be like, oh, we don't need all those lights. But that's how they talk too. That's how I talk when I get pushed. I don't ever want us to feel like we have to be the ones that come up with it, that do the thing, that are on the cutting edge. It's okay for us to say, I think this is what you're saying, that there's someone else doing this really well who has the expertise, and maybe they need the support, and maybe we have the support. And I think I'm with you. I think we need to consider those things. So yes, we are considering that. But yes, that reminder is a good reminder. Yeah.
I agree. All right, coming over here to Jim.
I applaud everyone that's been involved in all of this work to this point, and even before all that, in the beginning, to have the land that's here. It's important that we're doing these things, that we're looking ahead down the road to do the thing that we all really want to do. We want to help the homeless. I don't think anybody here disagrees with that. I think that maybe one of the red hats could answer this. What do you need most, money or houses? It would be good to know that. If it's a money situation or a housing situation, there might be another way to go around it. I don't know that. Today, 2.5 million is a lot of money, but it really isn't. You know, God owns it all anyway. He's got the cattle on all the hills, and there's no limit there. But if there's a way to, I agree with the comments about this being a huge time consumer and a big project that can be handled, but 2.5 million can be used in a lot of ways. If money's the issue or houses is the issue, we can donate, come alongside other people that are doing that well, and maybe spend the money wiser. it'd be nice to have something like that on the north end of the property here, you know, that looks good and it's part of the church ministry. Obviously, we're coming at it from more than just a roof over somebody's head and a place to sleep. We want to be able to change hearts. We want to be able to put light in front of people and let them respond accordingly. So what's the greatest thing we need? And then one other question, is there federal money that'll be involved in this, state, federal, or community money?
Great question. Seems like that he had a question maybe for you, Misty, that when he just said what's needed, housing or money, my guess is C, all the above, but
Yes, both. But honestly, housing. We have, not that this would be an emergency shelter, but we have no emergency shelter for families in Douglas County. We have Family Promise, which is not an emergency shelter also. You know, and a lot of these families do have employment. They do have vehicles. They, you know, they're working. They're living in their car at Walmart frequently here because, you know, I picture this as a continuum. You know, maybe they start at Family Promise once they pass their background checks and they're allowed to do so, allowed to stay there. And then once they show that effort that they do want recovery from homelessness and they're doing the work, you know, then on to the next step, and you know, then maybe from there, tenants to homeowners to buy housing. That's the kind of continuum that I would see with this. But you know, I think what we have shown that's been really successful is collaboration. A collaboration, taking down all the silos of the places that do the same work here in the county and bringing our best parts together, and that's what I would see with this. You know, in my position, I'm responsible for all things homeless outreach and emergency sheltering. So like my part I could see is providing funding for a position that would do something like Chrissy does. And if you want to talk a little bit about that briefly, you can kind of talk about what that would look like. But when we house folks, we don't give them keys and say good luck. We stay with them as long as they need us to, and show them how to be housed if they need that. Like somebody said something about the shelter and the problems. That's not this. A lot of what happens at the Lawrence Community Shelter are individuals that have a lot of high barriers, very serious mental illness, probably in the worst parts of the addiction and things like that. That's not this. Those are two different populations experiencing two different things, and so I just want to make sure that we're clear about that. These are families. These are humans. They're not their living situation.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm one of the case managers with the homeless response team. And first of all, I want to say, like, I'm a Christian. I've been a part of several Christian families, and I've never heard this conversation. You know, and as a Christian myself, that even the consideration of you guys having something like this, I do what I do for a living because none of my church communities have ever given me this opportunity to do this in my community. And so the fact that you guys are even considering having this opportunity to love on these people is just amazing, and I want you all to applaud yourselves for that, because that is truly an honor for me to hear. As a case manager, I will tell you that I worked with a family that was actually at Family Promise that just got housed a couple months ago. They just had their second baby. He's working full time. She's staying at home now with both little ones. But my job with them was just to make sure, like, the barriers that were in front of them, there was some legal issues that he had to overcome, and I helped him advocate and get through all of that. You know, it's just walking alongside them, making sure, a lot of it's just, like, they were both foster kids. So a lot of that is just like building that confidence, loving them until they can love themselves. Helping them understand that this doesn't have to be an end-all be-all. Like, we can overcome this barrier too, whatever that may look like. And for every family, it's different, but we all deserve love. And I really applaud you guys for considering this.
Yeah, hey, and thank you for what you guys do on an all the time basis. I was going to say a daily basis. It's all the time. I'm going to make an executive decision.
Okay.
And I think we have one more right back there.
Yes.
And then we'll go with your plan. How about that?
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think you guys have got a good plan going. It's needed in this county very bad. But I was thinking, I developed 80 acres at Joinsville in the north. And we built 21 houses in there. And we have to have them on 3 acres. Now you have to have 5 acres to put on a house in the county. So that's just for thought. I seen you having 8 together there. The county will have to okay it. And they won't okay me on a lot of things. Road, everything. It's tough, guys. So my advice to you would be to start at the ground level and then go up, because you're going to run into some very difficult challenges. Thank you.
What's your name?
Ralph Leary.
Ralph, thank you. Thank you for, I sense your care and your concern. So thank you. Appreciate your perspective. So go ahead.
I'm going to make an executive decision here. No, thank you guys so much. I know some of you still have questions. A few of us will stay up here and we'll answer those. You can look a little closer at what we've been thinking about. And I guess from here, we haven't even talked about, I don't know, we haven't done this before. We need to talk about, all right, what's next, right? And this conversation's not over tonight, and we haven't made a decision about anything tonight. This is good, and we appreciate your posture. I know that some of you came in here feeling ready to fight, feeling defensive, feeling like we're coming after you, and that. Please know that that's not our posture at all. Our posture is just one that wants to seek out the right way for our church to live out Matthew 25, which is the gospel. It's some of the story of the gospel is bringing people into a life-giving relationship with Jesus, and some of the story of the gospel is bringing people to a place where the least of these are being served. All of that together is the gospel, and we want to live that out here. So I hope that you hear our posture, and I hope that you hear that we want to be good neighbors with you. We want to have a continued, ongoing relationship with you. We want to approach this conversation with great care, and we appreciate you speaking into that tonight. So would you close us in prayer?
Yeah. And I want to correct something I said earlier.
Okay. Is this an executive?
I don't
Sorry.
know what this
All right.
is. So I said, and I mean this, okay? Any of you, whether you are here as a regular church attender, a church member, maybe you're part of the community, this is the first time you've even stepped foot in this room, maybe you're both, right? You're a regular attender, you live right over there, right over here, right down there. Listen, these are conversations that we have to have, okay? We have to have these. These are questions that have to be asked. They're concerns that have to be raised, okay? What I said earlier holds true when I said My office is right down that hallway. These doors are unlocked every day. Someone is here most days, okay?
Except for the next couple days.
That's what I'm going to correct. Our staff is going on a retreat tomorrow morning. We'll be gone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, okay? Because I was just going, I know somebody's like, I'll go by there tomorrow, which would normally be just fine, okay?
We did not plan that to
We
skip
didn't plan-
town.
yes, we did.
That's been on the calendar.
Yeah.
It's our annual visioning and planning retreat. We do it every
think
year.
We'll come back. So,
Yeah.
No, but community members, okay? I want to have this conversation with you, okay? Please stop in anytime. Whoever passed out those flyers, like, no hard feelings. That's okay. That's all right. But that person probably has my email address, might have my phone number. You are welcome to give that out, okay? Give out my cell phone. Anyone who needs to get in touch with me, please do so. The worst way forward here is to leave with unanswered questions and then start filling in the blanks on assumptions, right? Right? That's the world we live in. Let's not be that, okay? Let's not be that. So willing to have these conversations, okay? I was going to pray. Is that what it was?
Please.
Okay, all right. Lord God, we are thankful for you. We're thankful for your people. And God, your people is every person in this room. Every person in this room is your child, someone you created, someone you love. Every person in this room, their thoughts matter, their feelings matter. And so, God, would you just affirm that for them now? God, we thank you for this time together. I thank you for just the way this has played out, the deep thought that has gone into these questions, into this conversation. And God, would you lead us from this point forward as well? Help us to discern your leading. We just want to be obedient to who you're calling us to be. So go with us now. In your presence. Amen. Amen. Thank you all. We'll stick around if anyone wants to come chat with us. We'll be up here.